Hey, welcome back to another video, guys. Today we're talking about the Cypher protocol white paper, and the token release will happen at August 5th, 2025. So very shortly after this video will be released, and we are going to look into if the Cypher token is a worthwhile investment. So we are reviewing the product, like I said, the white paper. Then we'll dive into the tokenomics, the token utility, and then I'll add my personal critique and we'll conclude after that. So the product is very easily explained. If you're familiar with crypto debit cards, you just load up your crypto debit card, the Cypher card, with a non-custodial wallet, which is really nice. Most of their competitors are centralized platforms, and you have to send your funds to these centralized platforms in order to load up your card. But this card you can load up from a non-custodial wallet, which leaves you with more flexibility over your funds. You can deploy it in DeFi. Then you spend everywhere where Visa is accepted in stores, and your crypto will be converted into fiat, and the merchant will receive the currency that he desires. The service is available in over 190 countries. No fees for USDC spends if you have the premium version, so the top up will cost nothing, and also there will be no extra fees on the currency conversion rates. Generous and customizable limits. I think you can spend up to $200,000 per swipe if you have the premium version. On the basic version it is $50,000, but you can also limit that use within the app, so everything is super nice, customizable. Like I said before, everywhere Visa is accepted, and there is no proof of address needed, which is really nice because most of the competitors actually require you to have a proof of address, which is not really convenient for countries that necessarily provide a proof of address, or digital nomads that don't have a set place to live. All right, in order to understand the tokenomics of the Cypher token, we have to understand the arrow tokenomics of Aerodrome, because the Cypher tokenomics are inspired by the Aerodrome tokenomics. So in Aerodrome, we have three different parties: traders, VE Arrow voters, and liquidity providers. Aerodrome is a decentralized exchange, and the utility of the Arrow token essentially lies in the voting power. You can lock the VE Arrow token into the protocol up to 4 years. With that, you will receive proportional voting power, with which you can direct emissions to liquidity providers. Whichever pools give you the most revenue, you will vote for these pools, and the liquidity providers will receive the base protocol emissions of Arrow tokens. Obviously, they will forfeit their fees, and the fees that the protocol actually generates via traders will go to VE Arrow voters. VE Arrow means that token are locked. And liquidity providers will obviously provide the product to traders in order for them to get the best execution price. Let's look at the initial distribution of Aerodrome at TGE. First of all, they gave away a very generous airdrop of 40%. And this allocation was actually already max locked into the protocol. So airdrop participants didn't receive Arrow tokens, but VE Arrow tokens, which were already locked for 4 years. The distribution was 40% at the TGE. Then the foundation received 19% of the token supply, but the tokens were already max locked as well. The flight school was 10%. The purpose of the flight school was to incentivize new lockers into the VE Arrow system. And the public goods fund received 21% of the airdrop, but all of these positions were max locked as well. So from the beginning, all stakeholders, be it the airdrop participants or the foundation, and the team behind the protocol had aligned incentives. The incentives were to maximize fees to VE Arrow voters, because all of the stakeholders were VE voters from the beginning. Then you had 2% liquidity incentives and 8% dedicated to voter incentives. And I marked these positions here purposefully in different shades of green, because I wanted to indicate that essentially the 90% that was distributed couldn't be sold for at least 4 years. So there was no immediate danger of dumping the token, but a very fair and equal token distribution from the beginning. The Cypher whitepaper was inspired by this VE locking model and had implemented the following mechanisms. So everything starts with spenders here in the middle. Spenders will spend in stores with their Cypher card. They will receive cashbacks for that in form of the Cypher token. Then the cashbacks can either be used to be sold for USDC, or they can be locked into the protocol as VE Cypher tokens and decide over additional cashback incentives of particular merchants. So for example, if you are a regular Cypher spender and you're spending a lot of money in Amazon or 7-Eleven, you can vote for these merchants to receive an additional cashback in addition to the base rate cashback. So let's say the base rate cashback is 2% and you give your votes to Amazon and 7-Eleven, and then in turn these stores will give you an additional 5% cashback. So you will get a 7% cashback on all your purchases you do over these merchants. On the upper right hand corner, you can see that within the first 2 years, 104 weeks, the Cypher emissions ramp up pretty aggressively, so that spenders will receive increasingly more Cypher tokens every week until the 2-year mark, and then the incentives will taper off aggressively. And the idea behind this concept is that merchants like Amazon and 7-Eleven will see this mechanism in which Cypher voters will decide over cashback incentives of Cypher spenders and say, oh, we actually want to have votes in this system. We want to incentivize voters to vote for our stores, because then spenders will obviously spend more money in our stores because they will receive a higher cashback. And they will do this via incentivizing or bribing voters with money. Actually, they will say, oh, if you give us your vote, you will receive a proportional amount of USDC or whatever token they decide for. And that really will initiate, to summarize all of this, a positive flywheel in which spenders spend money. They will receive Cypher cashback tokens. These cashback tokens will then in turn be locked into the protocol for a maximum of 2 years. Then they will receive proportional voting powers for these locked tokens, and then vote for merchant incentives, because either they spend a lot of money at these merchants and want to receive higher cashback votes, or they will be incentivized via stores bribes to vote for specific stores and will receive the bribe money in return. And then there will be an additional layer of incentives. There will be also liquidity pools, which will be incentivized probably mostly on Aerodrome, also with Cypher tokens. And these DeFi participants will then look into the Cypher tokens and see, oh, they have this cool crypto debit card. Let me get this debit card and lock my Cypher tokens into the protocol so I can get higher cashbacks. And the idea behind this mechanism is to initiate a positive flywheel. This initial high inflationary tokenomic will bootstrap a big network of spenders, because people will say, oh, I have this cool card. Look, I received 20% cashback last month because I voted for these stores, and they even incentivized me via their bribe mechanisms. Because merchants will want to leverage this high network of spenders. Let's say they bribe $100,000 for VE voters, but they will receive votes so that spenders in the system will receive $200,000 via the Cypher token in cashback. This is an rational investment for any merchant. So that leads to merchants will bribe voters for higher cashbacks and visibility. And spenders will see these bribes, lock more token to receive bribes and higher cashbacks from their favorite store. Because remember, we have always these two possibilities. Either I receive the cashback and I immediately sell it for more USDC, or I will participate in this mechanism and receive even more cashback and bribes. And other people will see this mechanism and say, oh, I want to participate in that as well, because I want to also have 20 cents back on my every dollar that I spend. So they will join the system. That is the idea behind the positive flywheel. Now let's talk about the specific Cypher tokenomics and the token utility, and see maybe where this analogy of aerodrome breaks down. As you can see here, we have the system in aerodrome where VE aero voters vote for emissions to liquidity providers. Liquidities providers will provide liquidity to traders, and liquidities provider will not receive the fees, but VE aero voters will receive the fees. We can draw an analogy here to the Cypher product, where VE aero voters will turn into Cypher lockers. So far so good. And they will decide over the emissions to the merchants. The merchants will give in turn not liquidity but cashback incentives, not to traders but to spenders. But where the analogy breaks down now, spenders will pay fees via spending in stores, and these fees will go to the Cypher HQ Foundation and not to the Cypher lockers. And this mechanism has several problems, which I will line out right now. The problem starts with the flywheel fallacy, where a flywheel is solely dependent on the value of its own token. And we saw this last bull market really elegantly described in a meme where an elephant blows itself, because this mechanism works as long as the token goes up, because then spenders will be really happy about their cashback rewards and will be incentivized to lock even more tokens into the protocol, because next time they're anticipating a higher reward. If the token goes down for a couple of months, they will receive less and less cashbacks and are more and more incentivized to sell the token, because even if the narrative sounds great in theory, the reality is if the token price goes down, bribes are not worth as much anymore for their token emissions. So merchants will pay lower and lower bribes. The token price will go down increasingly because spenders will dump more and more and psychologically cannot bear to see the token losing 99% of its value. The token price in turn reflects, especially in crypto, the project's reputation. No one will talk about the project positively if the token price goes down 99% in value. And even if someone would speak positive about the card, outsiders would look at first at the token price and will see the token price is down only, which will make them repelled to look further into this project. Then token holders will not participate fully in the protocol upside, because they will benefit from the network effects of spenders, but they will not get, obviously, the revenue that they themselves generate as well. And that leads to misaligned incentives between stakeholders, because the Cypher Foundation will receive the spenders' revenue anyway. Even if investors, team, advisors dump all their tokens, the foundation will continue to get this revenue. And there will be no floor price, because the token will also be only interesting really to spenders or to the Cypher community, because an outsider who is not a spender does not profit off of the token cashback. So why should he hold the token? Whereas when he would receive revenue by holding and locking the token, then at some point, if the price goes too low and the revenue is growing increasingly, and the token has a huge promise of paying off itself by revenue distribution to lockers, at some point some sophisticated investor might step in and increase the token price because he thinks it is worth the buy. And the last thing is, your competitors will do it. There are already crypto debit card projects out there that at least redistribute part of their revenue that they generate over the crypto debit card services to token holders and incentivize them via a buyback and burn or redistribute token dividends. Investors will always flock to these projects more, because obviously the token has a way higher appeal if spenders and token holders participate in the revenue upside of the token as well. So what is the solution I propose here? Just do what Aerodrome did. What did Aerodrome do? They just had a small change where they locked all their foundation and treasury token into their own protocol and redistributed fees to all Cypher lockers. And this is really powerful, because they now have the exact same incentive structure as the community token holders, and they're fully dependent on making the protocol as successful as possible, which means increasing the revenue and distributing the product to the maximum amount of people. And if the Cypher Foundation were to do this and lock all of their token distribution into the protocol, then the incentive structure would change, and all these colors I outlined here in red are potential tokens that can be dumped on the market. But if they're max locked by the team for 2 years, they will turn green all of a sudden, because now the team is not incentivized anymore to sell these tokens, because why should they? They have the belief that their product is the best product out there. They will generate more and more revenue in the future and will participate fully in the upside of the protocol. And the same goes for investors and advisors. The only token that can be dumped will be the airdrop, although I would say the airdrop, in my opinion, should be max locked as well. The only token that can be dumped onto the market will be the protocol spending incentives that will be redistributed every epoch via this protocol distribution mechanisms the Cypher lockers decide over. But because participants see there's actually, I'm getting more and more rewards every week, people are less likely to sell their cashbacks immediately, because they're getting more and more revenue from this token every week. And even if the price does not go immediately up, it's a highly incentivizing mechanism if you're getting more and more passive income every week. So let me draw the conclusions here. VE or flywheel tokenomics does not automatically mean you win, because if you only incentivize the flywheel effect with your own token, this will lead in a market downturn to a price collapse. You need to make real revenue, and this real revenue needs to be redistributed to token holders. That is why the flywheel of Aerodrome was successful. They had product market fit, they had increasing revenues, and this increasing revenue was redistributed to token holders, which then in turn incentivized the token holders not to sell the additional emissions, but to relock them into the protocol and participate in the upside of the protocol, because they saw these revenue increase and they were getting more and more rewards every week. And that's it for today, guys. Let me know what you think about the Cypher tokenomics. Would you agree or disagree with my assessment here? Let me know if you're a fan of the product like I am. And I'm also happy to receive any feedbacks, what I can do better in the next videos. Maybe some of my criticisms aren't valid. Let me know in the comments below, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.